Pogi
Wives,
points po
yakapin
yan.
nyo naman. Sabihin nyo, thanks.
Pwede-
Kahit na alam kong medyo yung
Pwede-
iba napilit.
Pwedeng siyang kiss lang. Siya lang.
Hi everyone, thank you for investing time in your marriage and for attending our very first installment of our Stronger Marriage webinar.
And for those who weren't able to attend our webinar or would want to watch it again, here is the video of Pastor Dennis and Tammy on sex and intimacy.
Enjoy!
Again, thank you so much for joining us. I know this will be a fun-filled 1 hour plus with you guys. Hopefully may matutunan kayo dahil nung ginagawa namin tong lesson na to, medyo convicted ako sa mga tuturo ko, no? And that's why we have what we call our Stronger Marriage, because we want you to understand na lahat tayo, may assumption tayo, assuming tayo lahat na hindi pa tayo ganun kagaling sa marriage. And we're all in a journey together. Tama ba, Tami?
And there's room to improve.
Yes.
So I see some of the names and faces here I know have been married longer than us. Diba? So parang it is a humbling also. Diba? It's a reminder that all of us are really walking together, learning from each other, and it's really by the grace of God. And diba?
Yes.
Yung mga iba dito, and na-amaze lang ako kasi biblical principles, they are not limited to how many years we have been married. They're not limited to experience. Diba? We can all learn from what the Bible has to say, what God has to say about how He has designed our marriages. And yun lang, mga nakita ko kasing names, diba? Parang na-excite lang din ako na. And I want to commend you for being here with us. Now, whether you are newly married or you have been married for, yung iba sa inyo baka may apo na, wala naman siguro may apo sa tuhod. I want to commend you for being here. Husbands and wives, I want to give you a pat on the back for investing in your marriages, for taking time this is you communicating, this is important to us. And so I'm so glad to see your names because I know that God is going to do something in our marriages.
Yes. So, teka lang ha, play ko lang para, ayan. All right. So, again, welcome. This is our first installment. Marami pa tayo, di ba, Pastor Alan? Marami pang pasabog. Kami lang yung umpisa kasi mas magagaling yung mga next natin, no? And we'd like to start it off by talking about some foundation about marriage. And ewan ko kay Pastor Alan kasi ang ni-request niya, sex agad yung pag-usapan. Sabi ko, Pastor Alan, we're not like that.
Alan talaga.
Oh, parang pwede bang Jesus lang pag-usapan natin ngayon, Alan?
Okay.
Paki-mute po si Glenda. Kami na to, Glenda. We can do this. Okay. So, as what we said, no, we are a work in progress, kami ni Tammy. In fact, maraming revelation sa amin while doing this. This is the first time we're going to teach this lesson, and I hope it helps you and it convicts you the same way it convicted us both. More on my part, no? Maraming conviction si Lord sa akin about it. And I think this would make me a better husband, even a better father. But we understand also that when we do this, marami kami i-discuss dito. Sana wala pong mga, sabi sa'yo.
Right.
Ayan, i-screenshot mo yan. Di ba? Wala pong ganon. Okay, I hope we understand that we are all a work in progress. Hindi ka rin naman perfect, no? Mga husband, feeling mo okay yung marriage mo, tanong mo sa misis mo, no? And malalaman po natin yan. So I think all of us, we are in that process. Wag po tayo in denial. Ako, I have to face that fact that in spite of me teaching marriage seminars, ang dami ko pang kailangang gawin to improve on our marriage and become a better father, no? So we're a work in progress. No? So this is our family. We're a family of 6. No, we call ourselves the sea creatures. Our eldest, sorry, 2 years old na tong picture na to. Dahil quarantine, wala kaming family shot na matino. No? So ito na yung pinakamatino naming family shot. All right? And also, we just want to plug na rin, no? And we'll be posting the audio file of this one in 3 parts. Meron po kaming podcast na nilabas. It's actually for married people and for parents. It's called Our Parenthood. It's on Spotify, no? So meron ng 4 na episode ngayon sa Podcast Network Asia. Go to Spotify, hanapin niyo lang Our Parenthood. Please subscribe there. May IG din kami, Our Parenthood Podcast, para malaman niyo lang yung mga new episodes that we're having. Yeah. Salamat sa fans po namin na hindi nag-mute. Okay, so maraming salamat po sa support. All right. Let's start. And I'll ask Tammy to start off our webinar for today, and we'll be talking about the 4 crucial foundations in marriage and intimacy. Dikit naman ang sex and marriage, di ba? For Christian couples, this is something that's very foundational, and I believe Tammy has really a great word for us today in session 1. So I'll pass it on to Tammy.
Okay, I want to emphasize on what you said na bawal yung sikuhan. I think it could really be good if all of us come here with a lens that this is for me. And I would do my best to, di ba, I would ask God what He wants to do in my heart, not just in my spouse's heart. Diba? If you're here and parang sana marinig, sana masabi nila yung gusto kong marinig na asawa ko. Well, I'm here to tell you that I think it is best that all of us come here with a lens that, Lord, you have something to say to me of how you want me to be as a wife, as a husband, so that we can have a better marriage. And we start off with foundations, and para siyang foundations, when we talk about foundations, para siyang law. Hindi naman siya law not in the legalistic sense, but it's really how God designed marriage. And just as with anything that God creates, diba? Parang how when He created the world, He designed the world with natural laws or mga parang principles ba tawag doon? Like law of gravity, for example, diba? Now, that's just how God creates. He creates anything with foundations and principles and laws para it will run smoothly. So the earth, for example, is governed by the law of gravity. So kahit na ako, meron akong something dito, ganyan. Meron akong sabihin ko, okay, ayokong maniwala sa law of gravity. Para sa akin, walang kwenta yan, hindi totoo yan. Kahit na paniwalaan ko yon, pag binitawan ko to, mahuhulog siya. Because whether or not I believe in that certain law, it applies to me. And it's neutral, it just applies. The same way with how God designed our marriages, how God designed our sexuality, our intimacy in marriages. There are laws that govern it. There are foundations and principles that God had set in place for it to function wonderfully. And whether we like it or not, whether we agree with those principles or not, that's just how it is. And so when we wanted to start this off with these foundations para if we troubleshoot, like if we need to check something ng parang may ano tayo dito, parang dry tayo dito or lagi nating pinag-aawayan tong area na to, then we go back. What are the laws or principles that we're violating? Saan tayo nagkakaproblema? Okay? So, yan. Let's first begin with of course, Genesis 2, it's the foundation of marriage. I would think that, no? Parang it sets for us the blueprint of marriage. The Bible says, therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. And the man and his wife were both naked and were not ashamed. From these 2 verses, we can see 4 principles about how God designed for our marriages, for our relationships, our intimacy natin to be. Okay? First is priority. When the Bible says, therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, it means that once we get married, there is a shift in our priorities. Okay, parang ito yung premise na dati if our loyalty is to our parents. So when we talk about, I know that for some of you, especially for those who have been attending Victory Green Hills for a long time, you have heard us talk about leaving and cleaving for many, many years, right? But when we talk about leaving and cleaving, it's not even just the physical na, oy, bumukod kayo ng bahay or yung mga ganon, di ba? When we talk about us leaving our father and our mother, it's not us, we don't mean at all to say that we dishonor them or pwede na kitang hindi pakinggan ngayon, hindi ko na i-value yung opinion mo. May asawa na ako, gaya hindi ganon. That's not what we mean. But it's really, there's the shift in loyalty, there's the shift in priority that now we are telling our spouse, you are now of primary value to me. You are my priority. And of course, it's easy to say, priority natin. Di ba lahat tayo pag tinanong, or halos lahat tayo, pag tinanong, lalo na if you have been in church long enough, you know the right words to say, right? We know the right words. Priority ko si God, tapos asawa ko, tapos anak ko, bago na yung work, ganyan. But the biggest proof is how we don't just say that our spouses are our priorities, but these have to be proven in how we really treat our spouses. And so if we say that our spouse is our priority, then that means our spouse gets the VIP seat. So yung seat dito, SEAT, it feels my very conscientious Jason Law. Shout out to you. Self. Okay, first is sacrifice. Diba? What am I willing to give up for my spouse? Am I actually willing to give up my comfort, my preferences for my spouse? Diba? So when we say I prioritize my spouse now, is there a shift also in my attitude in terms of me wanting to actually give up some things to honor my spouse's desires as well? Okay, so that's S. Next is energy. Do we give our best energies to our spouse? And I am guilty of this. I think for many, also for younger moms, we can be guilty of this when we all our energies now, we take care of the home, lalo na pag walang help sa house, we take care of the home, we take care of ngayon puro homeschooling, online schooling, right? So ang dami nating iniisip. And for us, it's noble kasi ginagawa ko to para sa pamilya. But then, pagdating sa asawa, pagod na ako. Di ba lagi daw tayo masakit ang ulo, ganyan. Ang bilis siya, parang intindihin mo, Han, masakit yung ulo ko.
Biogesic mo lang yan.
So, kaya favorite ng asawa yung ganyang commercial. Okay, so, do we save actually our best energies? Even the husbands, when you come home, do you give your wife your energy? Do you help out na, kung nakita niyo pagod na siya, sige nga, tulong ako sa bahay, tulong ako with the kids, diba? That's you communicating more than spending diba? More than being a provider, you are my priority. Okay? Next is attitude. Attitude is I want to be with you and I value you. And finally, the one way to show our priority, that we prioritize our spouse, is the time that we give them. Okay, so just like in any relationship, if we do not give it time, then wala, hindi lalago yan. Okay, I do want to say this about, especially in this generation, we see a lot of hands-on parents, diba? Hands-on moms and dads. And I love that. I admire how we are hands-on. We really try to be involved and engaged in the lives of our children. But I do want to remind all of us that families don't build around children, but they are built around marriages. And if we give up our marriages for the sake of our children, in short, if our children see that we are not taking care of our marriages in the name of our children, in the name of providing for our children, in the name of, alam mo yun, na parang yung reason natin, dahil yung energy ko, binuhos ko na sa anak ko, then go years down the road, if it's their turn to be husbands and wives, they wouldn't know how to take care of their marriages either. And that's why we see a lot of marriages that are baka surviving but not really thriving the way we want them to thrive. No, so that's, I think, one of the reminders.
Yeah.
Yes,
Wag lang maging child-centered. I think that's one of the things na napansin din namin once nagka-baby na, nakakalimutan na may asawa din. No? And masakit yan sa mga mister. Tama ba? Mister, pag nag-agree kayo, thumbs up naman dyan. No? Ayan, pag makita mo. Ayan, wag niyong kurutin si Mrs. Baka may mangyari. Okay, so, right? Ayan, so next.
Next is effort. Gusto mo ikaw?
Sige, ikaw muna.
Ako na naman.
Ganda
Okay.
na eh.
So therefore, a man shall leave his father. So now there's a shift in priorities, and then we are told to hold fast to our spouse. Holding fast gives us a connotation that there's effort into it. And I think because of the romance movies that we watch, because of diba, the culture, how culture has taught us, parang the message has been, if you find that one person yung talagang yung soulmate mo. Or in the Christian circle, you know what we call it? God's perfect choice. If you find your God's perfect choice, may acronym pa po yan, GPC. Okay? If we find that one person, then if we just marry the right person, then emotions will happen naturally and effortless ang marriage natin. And that's why we see a lot of couples, sadly, who separate when after ilang years, diba? And then they tend to think now, because I'm not satisfied anymore, I'm not emotionally fulfilled anymore, I'm not sexually fulfilled anymore, then baka nagkamali pala ako, hindi pala to yung person para sa akin. And then we see separation, and then we see divorce, diba? And it's heartbreaking. And the fact is, intimacy in our marriages, it takes work. And it's not yung, bakit nagbabakasyon naman tayo every year Tapos grande naman Or this month, nag-date naman tayo di ba? The effort we're talking about is daily effort. The daily effort of communicating to our spouse, the daily effort of having that attitude of service and prioritizing them. Diba?
So hindi yan di ba, na pagka romantic ako sa'yo today, which is a Saturday, baon na to hanggang Tuesday. So bawat kalapit ko sa'yo pwede, di ba? Parang hindi ganun yan. No, every day you have to be romantic to your spouse, and it takes effort to do that. No? Pero yan yung sabi sa Bible, that we hold fast to our wife. Parang you cleave, di ba? Nakadikit ka sa misis mo, di ba? For the wives, it's cleaving to your husband, no? And saying, we're one, no?
Yes. Next is yan, because you said one, they shall become one flesh. The marriage is designed for us to be one flesh. And even today, diba, as we're talking about sex, and sex naman, diba? Tama ba, Alan? Kasi ang pagkakaintindi ko, intimacy, tapos baka sinabi mo intimacy, tapos dahil kay Dennis, sa mga husbands, ang intimacy daw, uy, sex daw pag-usapan. Every time, when we get invited, segue lang ako when we get invited, and the topic that's about intimacy, Dennis relays that to me and tells me, basta sex daw pag-uusapan. For me, bakit? Sex lang ba ang intimacy? So husbands, you have to know also, intimacy is beyond sex. Okay? And you can actually have sex without being intimate. You can be having sex a lot of times and still not be intimate. Yung pala, and eventually doon na parang, hindi na masaya, ba't ganyan na? Okay? So the goal of our relationships, and really when we come into our marriages, it's really knowing that we become one flesh. And the Bible actually describes it, diba? Ano ba yung verse? I think it's 1 Corinthians 7, wherein
yung katawan mo.
Na hindi na, you are not your own. Diba, your body is not your own. Parang ganyan na, diba? And I remember when we attended a marriage seminar, and then parang kinabahan ako noon kasi sabi niya, your body is not your own. Akin na yan. So ako parang, what? So marami din pumapalag sa ganon. Yung wife, sabi nila, what? I feel like that's... So I think we have to remember that when we talk about this, it is always with the premise that it is not selfish.
Yes.
We cannot demand it na, your body is not your own, it's mine. So you do what I want.
Mali din yun.
Iba din, diba? That's not what we're talking about. And I hope you hear it, that what we're talking about is when we talk about making, like, my body is for you, and likewise, it is with the premise that I can trust that you're coming from a heart that is selfless. And so I can also come from a heart that's selfless. Because ganon, di ba ang ganda nun? Yun.
Yeah. So hindi, ano ko lang, emphasis lang dyan, no, na dapat talaga selfless, no? Like for kami ni Tammy, her body is mine, sabi sa scripture, and my body is hers. So sa totoo lang, pagka equation wise, lugi ako kasi mas malaki ako, so mas marami siya makukuha.
Sabi namin.
Labo. Okay. Then really, it's out of a selfless, and I think we wrote that in our book, no, yung sa Great Sex Book, na the key to a great sex life is actually being selfless. Imagine entering into sex saying, how can I pleasure you? Because this is also your body. And the wife would say, no, how can I also pleasure you? Pag dalawa kayo ganon, ang sarap kasi magbibigayan kayo eh. Di ba? Most of the time kasi when it comes to sex or intimacy, the guy is going to say, tara na, let's go. Kailangan ko na. Di ba? Parang it's always selfish. No, and I think even in movies we see that. Rarely do you see na parang wow, selfless yung dalawa and they give off each other. No, may mutual ano sila eh, parang selflessness silang dalawa. And that is what makes not only sex work but also marriage work.
Right.
No.
Yeah. So when we talk about being one flesh, not just it doesn't matter if you share a house. It doesn't matter if you talk about your children a lot and you share your children. It doesn't matter if you share the same account, but do you share your lives together as a couple? Diba? Are you invested and involved and engaged in what's happening with each other? And I think one of the things, diba, kasi mga husbands usually they talk about events. Tayo naman, wives, mas gusto natin. General, I'm talking generality. So baka baliktad pala. Yung iba pala sa inyo, yung wife yung mas isang tanong, isang sagot. But when we talk about communication, it's a sharing of heart, ganyan. Okay? Next. Purity. And the man and his wife were both naked and were not ashamed. So the original design of God in Genesis, diba? Eden is actually, it means pleasure and delight. And they were both naked and not ashamed. And in our marriages, that's how God originally designed, that we can be vulnerable and exposed and not ashamed. And if you notice, the moment that Adam and Eve fell into sin, they covered their genitals. They covered themselves. And genitals, it actually represents the most sensitive parts of a person. And that's what actually distinguishes a man from a woman. Na, di ba yung parang clear, walang question, ito yung pinagkaiba natin. And parang figuratively speaking, if there is shame in the marriage, if there is sin in a marriage, that's the first thing that we close up. The wife now is afraid to just show how her sensitivity is and their differences. Now, instead of us embracing the differences, we fight over our differences. We shame our differences. Masyado ka kasi madrama. Ikaw na masyado ka insensitive. Diba? Parang instead of celebrating how we are different as man and woman, we now fight about how we are different. And instead of embracing that and seeing, okay, how can I help you in that area where you are sensitive or where you are weak, or how can, diba? Now it's parang taken against us, or we don't show it. We close off and not show our weakness. Okay? So yon. Meron ka gustong i-add?
Yan. Yung sinabi mo kanina, no, na main point. Did you know that you can have sex without intimacy? No, sa tagal na rin namin nagpastor and people that we've talked to, some people like, before kasi akala ko black and white lang, bilis lang. Hindi, mabilis lang yan. Tanong mo lang yung sex life nila kung okay. Eh meron kami na-counselan, away ng away. Tapos tinanong ko, when did you had last sex? Sabi niya, oh, yesterday. Tapos regular yung sex life nila, pero grabe, sobrang gulo ng marriage nila. Which means that you can actually have sex with intimacy. So that's not the measurement. Though of course that's a part of it, that there's a certain measurement of intimacy when you have sex, but you can also have sex without intimacy. No? So something to think about. And I think what Tammy was sharing kanina, no, these 4 crucial foundations, balik-balikan nyo to. No? Priority nyo ba yung misis nyo o yung mister mo? No, number 2 is, umi-effort ka ba talaga? Or ano na lang, cruising. Alam niyo yung cruising, yung parang, eto na, ganito lang, uwi ng bahay, kain, kwento.
Autopilot.
Naka-autopilot ka. Nako, delikado din yan pag nag-autopilot na kayo. And it happens to all of us. It happened to me and Tammy. And we're not saying it might never happen to us. That's why it takes a lot of effort to do it. No? Your next one is yung...
mahirap pag walang
one
acronym,
flesh.
diba? Kaya gusto ko
kailangan
acronym.
talaga one flesh kayo. No? Lahat ng kay Tammy, akin. Lahat ng akin kay Tammy. No? Everything. Right?
So, wait, can I say something about this? This also means that your spouse can check your passwords and can have access to, lalo na ngayon, di ba, social media. One way to protect your marriage is to give your spouse access to your phone, to your gadgets, and wala na yung term na privacy between the two of you. And that's one way to protect your marriage.
O kasi kung ayaw mo bigay yung password mo, wala ka ring password sa kama. Tingnan mo lang, di ba? Di ba? It means it's gonna happen because meron kang tinatago eh. And I think that builds a lot of mistrust pag may tinatago ka. No? And lastly nga, yung sinabi mo nga about purity. Something that we have to fight for and something something you have to be open about. No, sana open din kayo to talk about your sex life, 'di ba? Tami, ano ka pa ba, or wife, satisfied ka pa ba sa performance ko? Romantic pa ba ako sa'yo? And the wife, the same thing. You need to really be open about it, no? Kasi hindi nyo yan i-open sa victory group, no? I-open mo yan sa misis mo, no? And matters. No? So we're either going to be happy or we're going to be two old miserable people. Kapag wala tayong ginawa dito. No? That's why we have to learn to meet each other's need. No? So careful lang din tayo sa mga no?
Mamaya na lang natin pag-usapan niya.
Hindi, ubos na oras natin, no? So we have to be careful with the lies of porn and soap opera. 'Di ba? Kung nagpo-porn, kasi sa porn, ano yung line ng porn?
Okay. Sige, ako na ulit.
Go.
Okay, I think when we talk about pornography, it's not even an assumption that men lang nagsistruggle nito, even women, di ba? And I think also a subtler way of wherein we can defile our purity without us realizing it is when we're too engrossed in yung mga soap operas na romantic. And the lie is basically the same between mga ganon na, like for the porn, for example, the husbands will now think, hindi yan hindi naman porn yan.
Soap opera yan.
Noble naman si Captain Ray. Soap opera yan. So, example, sa porn, diba? The husbands are now led to think, uy, sana lahat ng babae ganun. Ginagawa lang yung gusto kong act. Hindi, wala without the complication. Hindi siya masyadong komplikado. Wala masyadong kailang emotional need na i-meet, yung ganyan. And so, if that becomes your standard or baseline.
Walang ganun.
Now, walang ganun Tapos na pagdating mo sa asawa mo, kailangan pa may emotional need na i-meet, may ganyan, mag-connect. Parang komplikado naman ito. And so now you turn to porn again because it's easier. Parang it's quicker. Same way with romance, mga romantic soap operas. If we're there's this ideal man na ang pogi-pogi, tapos para siyang woman trapped in a man's body. Lahat ng mga yung heart ko, grabe, na-fulfill niya yung emotional needs ko. Tapos ganyan.
Thank you.
Diba? So so we now also tend to compare, or we might fall into the trap of not realizing that we're actually comparing our husband. Sana, diba, ganito, may dream guy na tayo ngayon. Na ganon. So I think that's one thing that we have to watch out for. And I want to go back kasi patapusin natin tong first session, right? The vows that we made, diba? Just a reminder, it is still death do us part. And I am assuming that all of us here, we really want that to happen, that it is still death do us part. And that's what Dennis was saying, that because the assumption is we will be married till death do us part, and there is no way out of this, we can either work at our marriage and our intimacy and be happy together until we die, or we're going to not work at it and continue to be selfish in some areas and be miserable because we're not getting out of this. Our assumption is we will fight for this marriage till death do us part.
Yes. Oo. So parang at the end of the day, hindi naman talaga ganito ang marriage Di ba? That's not the picture of marriage. The picture, hindi ganun. Walang ganun ka-perfect. Yung sabi ni Jimmy Evans, I think eto na-convict ako sobra dito.
Bakit?
Ha?
Bakit ka na-convict dyan?
Iyak ako. Marriage is designed to kill you before it makes you happy. No? Marriage kasi brutal yan sa mga selfish people, but wonderful on those who have died to self. No?
It means if we want for our marriages to be fulfilling, then we have to first die to ourselves. And this is not speaking to the husbands only or the wives only. It is us, all of us here. We have to be willing to die to self if we want our marriages to thrive.
Yeah. All right. So that's session 1. Grabe. Session 1 pa lang. Wala pang sex to, Pastor Alan.
Grabe. Nag-level up na siya.
Nag-level up ako. Nagbago na buhay ko. Hindi na pa na yung sex lang.